What's something you've done that deserved credit but no one gave it to you? I wrote a Perl script that saved my company $10 million when the electric company dug up our data lines. We were able to continue production for 17 hours and keep the Jeep plant running with no interruption. It wasn't even my job to write that script. I just saw the potential emergency situation and decided to do something about it. Got my normal 2% salary increase that year. Thanks Excel. About 10 years ago I applied for a job as a recycling coordinator. Part of the application process was that they left me alone with a laptop to answer the question, how would you improve compliance? So I laid out this idea I had about a PR campaign. I didn't get the job, but about 6 months later they rolled out a campaign that was exactly what I had proposed. I'm still waiting to serve cold revenge to the butthole director of that department. There probably was no job. Costs $3,000 to do a phony job search. Costs $30,000 to hire a half-asset consulting firm. Helped design significant portions of a multi-million-dollar renovation, just to have my name scrubbed in a fit of office politics. I discovered the first recorded evidence of a blacksmith's forge in a major, literally world-famous, Roman site. I was uncredited as I was working as part of an unpaid archaeological student excavation team. I had a professor do something similar, though not with quite as cool of a subject, or as important. They published a paper based on my work and refused to mention me either as a contributor or their assistant, since I was not a grad student, just taking the class as an elective in my minor. Designed my school's logo in an after-school logo designing class back in 7th grade. They just used it without ever telling me. Logo designing class, more like give us free intellectual property class. I helped raise and take care of my niece and nephew for many years. I decided that I couldn't stay in my mother's religion anymore and left it when I was 19. They were no longer allowed to speak or have anything to do with me after that. For so many years I changed their diapers, fed them, bathed them, cried with them, rocked them to sleep, cleaned up so much vomit, drove them to and from school, took them to work with me on Bring Your Kid to Work Day, watched cartoons, and it was just all taken away and all taken away and all taken. I saw them a few years back at my dad's house. He's not in my mother's religion. They hadn't seen me since they were about 6 or 7 years old and they were both getting ready to graduate high school. They barely remembered who I was and didn't say 2 words to me hardly. It breaks my heart to this day to know that they'll never realize how much I love them. Thank you for kindness, aunts, uncles and older cousins like you are heaven sent. There was a fire in my apartment building. The old lady who lived in the apartment below mine had fallen asleep smoking and woke up to her apartment on fire. She got out, but was too shocked to notify anyone else. So, I was the one who noticed it, got my girlfriend at the time out of the place, then ran through knocking on doors and yelling in windows. Everyone got out safe. I sort of voluntarily avoided credit for 2 reasons. First, my girlfriend at the time was recently divorced, but separated for a good amount of time, and she was spending the night, which her parents didn't approve of, being a conservative Catholic family. Second, my local news had seemingly been on a string of interviews where not a single person being interviewed didn't come off as being a local hill person. It was mostly reason 1. But reason 2 was a benefit. The apartment complex thanked me by moving the old lady back into the same apartment, despite her refusing to quit smoking. My lease renewal was coming up, so I noped out then. Also, the only people we told were my parents, and my wonderful mom's reaction was basically, oh, bad idea, I would never have done something that heroic, so that's cool, should have seen that coming. I used to work at an exotic car dealership startup. I was just a detailer at the time. We had a meeting to discuss ways to improve cash flow cause we weren't selling enough cars. I had the idea of using the empty front parking lot of about 30 spaces to sell cheaper cars like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, etc. They shot that idea straight out of the sky. I was eventually fired for not caring about the business. 1 year later and guess what they are doing? In fact, they're not even selling exotics anymore. Just used cars. What does caring about the business even mean? Sounds more like a fancy way of forcing employees to skip breaks and work non-paid overtime cause these employees care for the business. I was 18 and on holiday with my girlfriend in Italy. We'd just arrived in Rome, having flown in and caught a train to Termini station. We stop in a park not far from the station to take a break and have some food before finding our hostel. We're both quite tired, so my girlfriend starts napping in the sun and I'm lounging out too, occasionally shutting my eyes. After enjoying the sun for 20 minutes or so, I open my eyes to see a man walking away from us but quite close by. Then think to myself that that's quite strange because I hadn't heard him at all. I look around and immediately realize my girlfriend's handbag is gone. I jump up and run after the man, who I now see is wearing a big coat and is clearly in a hurry to leave. I shout after him and manage to catch up before he gets out of the park and grab his arm, spin him around and wrestle the handbag from underneath his coat. He runs off and, not particularly wanting to start a whole thing, I decide to leave it and return to my girlfriend with her handbag containing her passport, mobile phone and holiday money. Amazingly, she had slept through the whole event, so I woke her up, told her what had just happened and that I had essentially just saved the entire holiday. Her response: nothing. Not a thanks, not even to this day. About 8 years on and several girlfriends later, this still annoys me. TLDR. Chased a thief to save my girlfriend's passport, mobile and holiday money from being stolen in Rome. Never thanked me. I believe I was the first to remove the border on the Commodore 64. Shared the code freely with my friends, only to discover that my friend would post it as his own in a code competition in a magazine back in the early 80s. That's my first taste of treason and humanity. OMG, that little crap. Props to you though, the real MVP. About 20 years ago, my engine company, fire department, went to an arson call. Somebody stuck burning paper inside somebody's apartment door mail slot. The fire didn't take hold and it became more of a police department scene. Just before left the scene, the mentally unstable tenant, who was suspected of the arson, grabbed a rifle and charged past us. He was running toward police that were headed downstairs about a floor below. My captain and I grabbed him and subdued him until the police came back and disarmed him. The police department never thanked us for nor acknowledged our actions that night. I'm sure they were embarrassed that they didn't properly clear and secure the apartment. I doubt it was ever mentioned in any report, and it chaps my butt a bit that it's probably because of pride. But of course I'm glad we were able to help and would definitely do it again. I wrote a paper for our senior year. My partner did nothing except screwing things up and writing like an infant. We won the award for the best paper at graduation. He was the only one mentioned and got the award because he got 0.5 more points on his oral exam. In like 5th or 6th grade, my reading class was doing Greek myths and fables like Odysseus and Perseus. We had to choose between like 6 projects. Most kids chose easy ones like read a book, do a cutout or report, or glue paper on paper, really easy busy work. I chose one where we had to make a throne for one of the gods, so I spent the entire weekend building a badass throne for Hades. I liked skeletons and edgy stuff. Took me a long time and a bunch of paint, styrofoam and dollar store arts and crafts to make a throne that really expressed what Hades was all about. I then took a skeleton guy from the budget Halloween area and put him on the throne. Presentation time came around. Even though my throne was bomb diggity, I am awkward and got a C on the speaking portion. Whatever, it's the throne that was mainly interested in. I never got the throne back. It was used to display in the library, which is cool and all, but I was never told that, and as far as the random kid knew, it was nameless cause there was never any made by stickers on it. So my hard worked art was shoved on display with no real credit on it for like half the school year, and when I got it back, the kids who passed by fricked with it and it was missing bits and pieces and the entire skeleton was gone. Freaking public school. Got an A on the throne, which averaged the grade to a B. But if I just did easy flip books or whatever it was, I would have gotten the same grade because the dumb girl who sat near me got a better grade for trash that took her like 10 minutes to do. Our public school, teaching kids the important lessons like why you should never care or try on something. Notified my neighbors that their house was on fire, helped them exit, went back in for their 2 dogs, mucho flames at this point, walked across the street to tell my wife I was fine, sat down, walked back over to make sure the neighbors were going to be fine. Police and fire on the scene by this point. Cops told me to leave or be arrested and wouldn't let me get checked out for smoke inhalation. Your local police are buttholes. I saved a girl's life once. We were at a concert and there was a giant pond thing to swim in. There was a floating plank thing in the middle that everyone would play King of the Hill on. Anyway, this girl got stuck under it and was drowning, and I was the only one to notice, so I pulled her out. I wonder how she's doing from time to time. Being a volunteer firefighter in a department that never once held post-incident powwows to go over the goods, the bads, and the emotions of the crew, it's hard to never hear you did a great job, but it's even harder when you truly thought you did your best but still went home feeling guilty for not being able to do more. I'm 10 years out of that firehouse and was recently told it would be closed and consolidated with another local house. I hope someone can figure out how to properly manage the people that are putting their lives and mental state on the line for nothing more than a thank you. I caught a sexual predator who had been successful and the police were hunting for. He asked me to suck his dong when I was 9 or 10. After telling him no thanks, I followed him till he parked and wrote down his license plate number. Probably not the smartest move in retrospect. 10-year-old you is bad but. Back in 2009 I used to work in social media development and I came up with a simple idea. What if we had a special slot for a new photo we ask people to take, with them having the site name and their username written on a piece of paper. We can give them a little verified green check mark if they do it. I think a few sites had done verification back then but it was mostly pertaining to a verified email address. We had a Philippine admin team just checking photos on the back end so they were all manually approved. So yeah, in my most modest fantasies, I like to think that I helped that check mark become the standard you see now. As far as I know, this is how the verification process started in social media. Congrats Uspeed. When I was just out of high school, my dad was having some alcohol issues. I lived with my boyfriend, was going to college full time, and worked full time. I'd drive the hour to my dad's house to stock his fridge once a week. I paid his utilities for him for almost 2 years. I endured drunken 2 AM phone calls during this time. I decided to take a semester off to get ahead on money and didn't go back. After about 2 years of this, my dad got a DUI and quit drinking. Flash forward 10 years. My little brother and sister are 10 and 12 years younger than me and are just beginning college. Our dad pays their tuition, their apartment rent, visits them to take them out to eat, and sends them cash every week, and jokes with me that maybe one of them will get their degree and do something with their lives. It was absolutely my choice to do everything that I did, but some acknowledgement of my help would be great. I'm sorry you don't get any credit for all that you did. That stinks. Glad your dad got sober, but you deserve credit. A lot of people on my course in college left all their coursework to the last minute for the whole year. I'm talking 1 week before the deadline. Most people still had the first assignment to finish, so I stayed from 8 AM to 10 PM every day that last week, including on my birthday, to help them out. Some of them even got distinctions when they would have been disqualified without me, and yet the next year rolls round and not one credited me for helping, vetted me for helping, vetted me for helping, vetted me for helping, vetted me for helping, vetted. Okay, that's really crappy. Sorry, people suck. I always try go to sleep with the reminder that I had pure intentions regardless of others' actions. Hopefully some of the good karma that was meant for them somehow manages to come to you to balance it out. I actually donated my bone marrow to a totally random woman and, from what I'm told, directly saved her life. I asked the registry people if I could call and check on her or send a card or something, but apparently she's refused to have any contact with the donor. Me. I don't ever bring it up in real life because if you donate and talk about it, I think it somewhat negates the meaning of the act itself. But, yeah, nobody actually knows I did that, and the one woman who does, for some reason, refuses to have contact with me. In fairness, it could just be that there was a checkbox she didn't fill out on some form, or she could have some fairly personal aspects to the donation that she doesn't want to discuss with anyone. Good on you for donating though, not enough people do. You know those major computer server problems, or a security breach that happens that disrupts entire companies? Here's to all my fellow IT people who prevent those things from happening all the time without anyone knowing. Dealing with my nut job mother all these years. What I'm saying, oh, the situation isn't really that bad. It just takes a bit of patience. What I'm thinking, I deserve to be freaking canonized for this crap. I'm a little bitter about it. I hear you. My mom is, well, she is who she is. I often wonder what I've done in this life or a past life to deserve this crap. I leveraged my centers of influence to secure my company a booth at a 3-day convention for free. The value was $1,800. I spent 3 days there, got new clients and ended up closing a bunch of new business over the next month as a result of the convention. My boss took all the credit for getting us in the convention and she only attended it for a few hours on one of the days. My stepfather and mother separated my senior year of college. My mom was really broke and hard up. I took out student loans that year to finish school, and piece by piece gave them to my mom to pay her mortgage. I got a full-time job to try and cover semester costs working third shift at a gas station. The work was killing my grades, but I needed the money to survive as I'd given my mother the loan money. I ended up flunking most of classes, withdrawing from college that year and just working to stay afloat. School called in all the loans to be repaid as I wasn't a student anymore. Kept having to work more and get a better job etc and never got back to school. Mom and sisters give me crap a lot about not finishing school. No one remembers or cares about me bailing my mom out that got me into this path to begin with. Dang, I'd be bitter as frick about that crap. I reported a school shooter to authorities the night before he was supposedly planning to do it. No one knew I reported it, but I prefer it that way. Even though I don't seek credit for it, I once declined a full 2-year scholarship to study abroad because I was needed at home to care for an ailing family member. At the time, it broke my heart because the graduate program offered was exactly what I had dreamed of doing. But it would have been selfish of me to accept the offer when someone I love dearly needed me at a critical time. No regrets. I did the right thing. Being able to provide that special care and being loved for it in return was the best credit. You certainly do deserve credit for that. I hope that you found another role and things worked out. My mom would fall asleep on the couch with the TV going almost every night for as long as I can remember. Given our social class lack of money, she never had a blanket as those were for me and my 5 sisters. I'd get up in the middle of the night to pee and see my mom sleeping in the fetal position to keep warm on our old, nasty couch. I would go back to my room, get my blanket and drape it over her, then promptly go back to bed. I never got to thank you, but that's okay. My mom is an angel to my son and that's plenty. Also, I never went cold. I'd steal a blanket from one of my older sisters. I went through an emotional roller coaster. Art's mom being too poor for blanket sad. Art's mom being good. Happy. Op being good. Happy. Op stealing blankets. You little sucker. My first job in my industry had a strict rule about custom software. We originally had a program written by one of our co-workers called Imagine. It essentially allowed us to do shortcut combos for a program we use instead of having to press buttons. Super handy. However, the company said since it was coded for work, the source code didn't belong to him. He quit, and ever since then, custom programs were strictly forbidden. We had a project come in. I ran the metrics, and it would take us 4 months to complete with 24/7 shifts on it. We were given 2 weeks to get it done. Otherwise, people were at risk of losing their jobs for not meeting a deadline. I went home, coded a program, and came back next morning. I told them we could get it done by the deadline if they allowed me to use my custom program. I designed it to work only in this scenario, so no one could use it for any other purpose. The company reluctantly agreed. I pressed a button, and 24 hours later, the project was complete. Never got paid a penny extra and had no recognition that I completed a 4-month project in 24 hours. Just to at least feel better about myself, I named the program Enigma, which if you rearrange the letters, spells Imagine. TLDR, I finished a 4-month project in 24 hours and didn't even get a thanks. In college I ran 2 clubs that were part of my department and helped out however I could around campus. They always gave recognition for the things I did to other people. My friend, who was the VP of the clubs, received a reward at our graduation for $5,000 for all the work she did for the clubs and the department. The department also handed out $1,000 rewards to 2 other students for their help around the school and department. The students looked at the professors as the awards were handed out like they were idiots. I smiled and clapped as everyone got an award and excused myself to the bathroom to wash my face, promptly leaving. My friend and several other students found me before graduation and told me they knew all the work I did. So I guess in some way I did get recognition, just not by professors. Also, my professors were convinced I wasn't graduating even though they had filled out the paperwork saying I was. They thought I had at least one more year there. I had also told them about the grad school I had applied to. They were confused when my name got called at graduation. In high school, I convinced a kid not to kill himself and reported it later to a teacher. He was sent to a hospital for a couple of weeks. The teacher said to me, "You're not going to get a hero's recognition for this, but remember that you probably helped save a life." I looked this guy up on Facebook 20 years later. He's still alive. Sounds like the teacher did give you credit, even if only privately. Got diagnosed with leukemia my last semester of law school. Still graduated on time and passed the NY bar 6 months later. Now I am in recovery ETA from drugs, alcohol, and work at PetSmart. I am a little bitter. A friend I cared a lot about was suicidal. Multiple attempts of killing herself when she was alone suicidal. I used up a shitload of time talking to her, trying to convince her of the good things in life, whether that be by being someone to talk to or just game with. Simply, good friends. After about a year she started getting over it, and finally asked for help herself. Lives about 7k kilometers away. She fell down, was in a coma for 2 weeks and lost her memory. She doesn't remember me. Her family always hated me for some bull's reason and that's all she got. At least I got to set some things straight when she contacted me again. It is weird knowing someone almost inside out who doesn't know you or herself. Lost contact shortly afterwards. Credit or not, I don't care. To be honest, I just hope she gets to live a long or at least happy life. It's what she deserves. Great and crazily fun person to spend time with. This broke my heart. You are such a good person. I was riding my bicycle when a guy opened his car door right in front of me without looking. My wheel bent. I flew over the handlebars only for my upper right arm to slam into the door, stopping me in my flight, and finally landed on my side in the middle of the street. I was bleeding, knew right away I had damage to my hand, and my bike wheel was busted. Once I got myself up, I accepted that this was just an accident. Yes, an avoidable one, but a simple accident nonetheless. I never once yelled at the guy. I didn't complain that he should have looked before opening the door. I asked for insurance info, and when he denied it we both decided that a call to the cops was best. When everyone saw the bruising, their immediate questions were, "Are you suing and did you curse him out?" So far I am not suing. I will make sure my medical is taken care of. Best case scenario, I can get a new wheel for my bike too. But I'm in no way looking to break this guy financially. I wish more people would recognize that I'm not being vindictive, even though a race I really wanted to do is now an impossibility. Company I work for from 2003 to 2015. In 2008, while social media was still in its infancy, commercially speaking, we had a meeting to discuss ways to improve business and reach more people. I suggested making a Facebook profile for each site and getting regular customers to friend us. Then slip in promos and competitions exclusively for our friends and Twitter followers. The MD of this 135 site business rejected it, saying it was a fad that would pass. Frick that guy. I made a Twitter account and Facebook profile for our site and was the sole admin for years. Got us 1,700 friends. Made and edited videos with original music and created content. The Twitter page was a waste of time, but FB worked well, and before I left, every site was required to have a FB page and an optional Twitter account. My videos, pictures and content ideas are still used now with 0 credit. See. When I was 3, my mum gave me £5 out of her purse to buy something in the store. Well, I wanted to be nice, so I put it back in instead, and when she found out she didn't have enough, she saw the £5 and was relieved. I haven't told her yet, but if we ever have a huge argument, I will be sure to bring it up. Having a strategic argument reserve is the most British thing I've heard today. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.